This morning is October 21st, is it really? October 21st. It's our 4 questions to warm up. The top 2 questions are from chapter 6 on integers, and the bottom 2 questions are from chapter 8 on fraction sense. So the first question says what looks like -8 bracket 5 minus 7 end bracket. And the important part of your grade 8 evolution in your learning is knowing that that says -8 multiplied by 5 take away 7. So the first thing you're going to do is your brackets, and you're going to simplify 5 take away 7. So this -8 multiplied by, it's multiplied by whatever 5 take away 7 is. And we already agreed that 5 take away 4 is 1, 5 take away 5 is 0, 5 take away 6 would be -1, and therefore 5 take away 7 would be -2. So directly underneath that expression, you need to have a simplified version of -8 multiplied by -2. And then as Donnie will tell you, when you are multiplying integers together, if the integers are the same signs, your answer will be positive, and therefore a -8 times a -2 is a positive 16. Your second warm-up questions is similar to the first one. The only difference is after you simplify 12 times 3 minus 5, you have to take that answer and divide it by -10. So the first thing, I'm going to treat this top part like I would brackets. So I'm going to have 12 multiplied by -2 divided by -10 as my second line. I only simplified my brackets. 12 times -2 is -24 divided by -10. And the reason why this is something you don't necessarily need a calculator for is because when you divide by 10, you simply move your decimal, When you divide by 10, you move your decimal one place over. So instead of being 24, it's going to be 2.4. And a negative divided by a negative, just like a negative multiplied by a negative, since it's the same signs, is a positive answer. And your answer will be positive 2.4. The next question, you need to start by first asking yourself, what was the picture starting with? In this case, it was 2/3. And how much of 2/3 am I talking about? Well, I divided that 2/3 into half. So this picture is really half of 2/3. And since of, we all know, means multiplication, we need to have half times 2/3. Now, if you had 2/3 times half, that might be the same answer, but it's not the same question. And on a test, I would mark that wrong because you're not interpreting it correctly. So make sure you ask yourself, what is the fraction I started with and how much do I get of it? Your starting fraction is really the second term in your expression. So make a note of that on your paper if you're making that mistake. And the answer, therefore, would be 2/6, which in lowest terms is 1/3. Now over here in the last question, the reason why I gave you this question is because I want you to get used to the idea that when you multiply fractions together, cross-reducing helps you simplify the product of the two fractions. So if I was not using cross-reduction, I would go 10 times 34 over 17 times 35, and I would get, using my calculator, 17 times 35 equals, I would get 340 over 595. But then I'd have to start dividing it by common factors. First one I would divide it by would be 5. And I'd be like, oh god, this is going to be so hard. Alright, let's see if I can do this. 595 divided by 5. The denominator will be 119. 340 divided by 5 equals 68. I'm like, I don't know if that's lowest terms or not. Is it lowest terms? How do I know what number is divisible into 119? It looks like a prime number. So how am I going to figure this out? I can't, can I? It's almost impossible to know that this is not lowest terms. Because I look at the number 119, and I'm thinking to myself, there can't be anything divisible into 119. But you'd be wrong. So here's what we do. We learned that this product of multiplying the numerators and multiplying the denominators, 340 times over 595. If I was to take these two numbers, instead of having 10 times 34, if I was to switch it and go 34 times 10, this answer would not change, right? That answer would not change. But my starting fractions would have, because that would have been one fraction and that would have been the other. So my starting fractions would have been 34 over 17 multiplied by 10 over 35. I would still get the same answer, but 34 over 17 in lowest terms is what number? 2 over 1. I could have reduced this to 2 over 1. Instead of using 34 over 17, I could have used 2 over 1, and that's an easier starting point. Both of these are the same amount. 10 over 35, both are divisible by 5. And my starting fraction would have been 2 over 7. Right? So instead of saying 10 over 35, I could say 2 over 7. But, do I actually rewrite the fractions? No. Do I actually do this? No. What I do is I pretend that the 34 was over the 17, and I put 2 over 1. I pretend the 10 was over the 35, reduce it by a factor of 5, and so I'm going to actually draw it in here so you can see it, to be 2 over 7. And now when I multiply my numerators, I get 2 times 2, which is 4. I get 1 times 7, which is 7. And that is my answer in lowest terms.